Here, we now have Esther here, so we have 4 select board members.
Okay, Esther's there in the
Yes.
office.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a quorum. Then why don't we go ahead,
Recording in progress.
why don't we go ahead and call the meeting to order? Special select board meeting on Monday, July 18th. And first item is approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Did Esther vote?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay. Any citizens' comments that don't pertain to the item at hand about the child care? Is there anybody actually on besides those of us that are
We do
involved in-
have persons on. Anybody in our audience, please raise your hand if you have something to address the board about. I'm not seeing any raised hands.
You are, okay. So, in accordance with the Vermont Community Development Act, 10 VSA Section 684, the board is conducting a public hearing to take questions and comments from the Middlebury community regarding a proposed application by the Community Child Care Expansion Project to the Vermont Community Development Program for an implementation grant to fund the renovation, expansion, and outfitting of the Otter Creek Child Care Center. I'll turn over the floor shortly to Cheryl Mitchell, the Community Child Care Expansion Project, who will explain the grant application and the community needs that VCDP grant funding would serve. After Cheryl's presentation, if you have a question or comment, please raise your hand. If you are in the room and when recognized, come up to the table in front, or if you're on Zoom, please raise your hand button and at the bottom of your Zoom window to be recognized. In either case, please state your full name for the public record before you make your comment. With that, I'm going to open the public hearing and turn the floor over to Cheryl.
Thank you very much. I'm here as part of the Community Child Care Expansion Team. This is a project that's been in the works, I would actually say, for pretty much 40 years since Otter Creek first opened, but specifically in the works for the past 8 years when the college has been very involved in helping to increase the availability of child care in the Addison County community. We are at a place where there's a dire shortage of child care spaces. Those of you that are employers may have had trouble hiring workers because they can't find child care, or you may have lost workers because as their situations change, they lose their child care. The expansion grant, I'm going to actually turn this over to show some visuals that Dave Provo will share. And just to say that I've been in the early childhood field in this county for too long, very long. Linda January is here with us. She's the director of Otter Creek. Sue Ritter is here with us. She's part of the team. Jody Brakely is part of the team, and any of us will answer your questions later. But basically, this is a response to a huge need, and we would like to approach the Vermont Community Development Program to help this expansion, which we believe, once it's finished, will add another 77 slots of childcare in this community. So Dave, I'll turn this over to you to show what we think this will look like.
Great. So I'm David Provo, the EVP of Finance and Administration at the college. Have been part of this project for the last 3 or 4 years to address this community need. The college's involvement is one of support. We educate 18 to 24-year-olds. We're not looking to help with 0 to 5. There are subject matter experts in the community, so this has really been a wonderful partnership. As we've looked, and we'll put the slides up on the screen, we have chosen a site of the existing Otter Creek childcare facility. This site was chosen because the college controls and owns a parcel of land just to the west of it. And to accommodate the expansion in the outdoor play areas as well as the needed parking, the college is conveying this parcel of land, and that will actually take place this week. We will convey it to Otter Creek, and Otter Creek will retain ownership of the parcel so we can move forward with this expansion. On your screen, you will see the site location as it relates to the downtown community. Our preferences of finding a site was walkability to town, and the current Otter Creek facility met those needs. As the picture to the right is the contemplation of the addition in the expansion, which I'll go into further details. If you go to the next slide, Kathleen. So this is the existing structure. You can see the elements that it's set back from Weybridge Street, and it is historic in nature as far as the look and feel of the neighborhood. So as we get into the expansion, you will see we're very committed to maintaining the elements of the design of the neighborhood. It is about, this facility will be around 12 to 14,000 square feet when fully completed.
And I would just add, Sue Ritter, I would just add that the project contemplates an existing renovation, a renovation of the existing building, as well as an expansion and new facility, place where the barn is, and you can see that from this photograph.
So this is an aerial view of what the completed project will look like. As Sue mentioned, we will do a gut rehab and renovate the old historic structure on the site, and then do the addition. The intention would be we would do the addition, open the addition, and then go into the house and renovate it so that we do not have any disruption of service to our young community members. We think it will be interesting for these children to actually be adjacent to a construction site with their hard hats and participate. So we're looking forward to that. But as we move forward, we will work closely with the community to make sure everyone is safe. If you go to the next slide, you can see this is what it will look like from Weybridge. As I mentioned, we're trying to maintain the elements and the look and feel of the neighborhood. There'll be, we will maintain the outdoor play area out front, as well as add outdoor play areas off from every classroom. And you can see how we will do that in the next slide. We do that by maintaining using the grade change. It falls off down to Otter Creek, and we are picking up those elements of the grade change so that there's accessibility out each classroom to the outdoor spaces. The parking lot is contemplated to be in the back of it, so not visually seen from Weybridge. And this design was developed by an architect out of Boston who primarily just works in childcare facilities and has done a number of projects in conjunction. The college's role in this project is we are, as I mentioned, a funder of this project. We will consolidate College Street and Otter Creek together. This is an important aspect for Middlebury College as one of the largest employers, that this is a community need to meet the needs of Addison County. As we try to align our funding source, we expect the college's contribution to be in the $3 to $4 million range, but the college is prepared to go to its board with the expectation of funding this because of the importance. The last slide that I'll just share with you is an expected timeline of when this project would take place. We are currently developing construction documents with the architect. We will start the permit process in the coming weeks. The intention would be next summer, we would begin Phase 1, which is the construction of the new facility, for 13 months, from March of '23 to March of '24. Then start Phase 2, which would be the conversion and the renovation of the existing structure from March '24 to February '25. In full occupancy of the 77 additional new seats would be in late spring of '25.
Thank you so much, Dave. We're happy to take questions. I'd like to add two things. We are still working with the Vermont Community Development Program to figure out which of their categories we will apply under, and we will need to come back to you as a select board once that's been strictly determined. The other thing that we're hoping to do once the project is underway is to become a hub for the recruitment and training of new childcare staff for the entire community. You've probably all heard that there's a struggle right now being able to keep childcare programs open because we don't have enough staff. So we're working with the Hannaford Career Center, Castleton University, the Community College of Vermont, and what is becoming what is becoming Vermont State University, to be able to create a really robust pipeline of people that are excellent in this field.
I would also add that the expanded center will retain 26 full-time jobs and bring at least 28 new jobs to Addison County. One of the goals of this project is to demonstrate to other counties in Vermont that it is possible to engage large employers, landowners, NGOs, and town governments and others in efforts to create a thriving childcare environment that will provide a positive return on their financial support and investment of relative expertise. We want this to be a replicable model for other communities after we take the lead and complete this project. So that's a really important piece of this, and that it truly is a community-wide endeavor. There are a lot of organizations that are supporting this project, Middlebury College being only one of them. We also plan to speak with Porter Hospital and other local employers to be part of this as well from a funding perspective.
So we are happy to take questions, any of us.
Hey, from the board, are there any questions or comments on this? And are there any hands up in the audience, Kathleen?
There are no hand, oh, actually, we
Lindsay.
have somebody, Lindsay has a hand up.
There we are, Lindsay.
Sorry, I used my little hand icon instead of actually raising my hand, so you didn't see it. I just wanted to say how excited I am about this project and how critical I know it is for our community. And I also just wanted to mention that, you know, from my work here at the Teen Center, I know that this puts a strain on everyone in the family. Teens are often called on to provide the child care that parents can't find, and that puts a strain on the relationship. It means the teens can't spend as much time socializing, and as we saw during the pandemic, that lack of social time can be really difficult. So I just want to say that how much I appreciate this, and I think it'll be great.
Thank you, Lindsay. That's a really good point.
I'm just curious what the permitting needs are for this project. Is there Act 250 review? What are the pieces that this needs to go through?
Go ahead.
Do you want to do that? So we've already engaged an archaeologist to look at the site. We've worked with Otter Creek Engineering to look at the site work, what we'll need to do there. We're looking at the wastewater issues. It appears that there will not be an Act 250 review,
Right.
but you know, who knows? They may find something unbelievable when they do the archaeological work. And we will have to have all the NEPA work done before, some of the other grants that we have applied for will need to be done before then.
So there will be an environmental site assessment. It's required by
Right.
federal,
We've had conversations with Historic Preservation because of the existing structure as well as the barn. So that we're still working through. And then, as Cheryl mentioned, really, probably the most difficult parts will be around the site. We've got to make sure we can control stormwater runoff. We're adding the parking lot. And then, from a safety standpoint, making sure, because the site rolls ultimately into Otter Creek, so with young children, we need to, so those are some of the things that we're working through now.
Absolutely. Great.
Yeah, go. Esther?
I just want to say this is music to my ears.
Thanks, Esther.
Music to my ears. I was a parent who drove to Ferrisburg to bring my child for Lawrence for childcare, and because there wasn't any space. So hearing about this project, knowing what it will do for people with families, kids, I'm overjoyed. So thank you for doing the work. Thank you for putting in the years, because I know to get to this point, it didn't just happen. And I appreciate it coming from a parent and for future parents.
Thanks, Esther. Thank you.
One other comment about the lot. I see that there's a semicircular area that's not fenced in. Is that part of this lot?
Let's find out where you.
Let's see what-
Maybe on the prior, yeah.
This?
Yeah, that whole corner there.
It will be.
These are just preliminary drawings.
But do you have a expectation of the use of that piece outside of the fence?
So, I can answer.
Great.
I'm Linda January, the executive director of Otter Creek. So the fenced-in area is what it will be, what is required through state licensing for playground space. So we have to have a certain amount of square footage per child of fenced-in playground space. The rest of the space will probably be utilized in different ways. You know, maybe picnics, or if there will be a slope. You know, we have a sledding hill now, so hopefully we'll have a sledding hill outside of our fence. And we spend a lot of time in nature and on walks, so I think classrooms will be utilizing other green and wooded spaces that are remained on the lot, but they just won't be kind of the licensed playground space
Perfect. Thanks.
that we need. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We also, part of the lot, part of the Middlebury, the Otter Creek lot, is currently, malt. When the property was donated to us, part of that was preserved through malt. So, we have talked about working with malt about, you know, there is a trail back there around the creek, so can we expand that trail that comes all the way up, like through, what would be left remaining of wooded lot up into Waybridge Street. So we're still having those conversations.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? I would say that all of us are available anytime. I see another hand there. Yeah.
This isn't about the project specifically. This is more of a question for Kathleen. And I would echo both Esther and Lindsay's comments that this much needed. I'm in full support, very excited about it. The only thing that I think of from a town perspective, and this isn't about your project, just these types of projects in general, where the town is the applicant and has to do the grant, you know, you guys are the subrecipient, and what the impact is to town staff, and do we have the capacity, and just those questions that Kathleen might be able to answer. I don't know how many of these grants we have active currently. I certainly don't want to do anything that would impact putting this out there and getting this grant for you guys and moving this forward, but I just also want to be aware and just make sure we have the staff and capacity to administer to the grant accordingly.
Just briefly on that, Heather, what I would say is that if we have experienced administrators of grants, there is some time involved, but it's certainly manageable from a town perspective. A lot of.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for that update, Kathleen.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions? Kathleen, we are not making a motion today until they know exactly which grant they're going for?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And we will be careful to do that at a select board meeting instead of a lunchtime meeting on a Monday. My apologies for getting this wrong here.
I think it's fine. You got very good turnout, actually.
Great turnout.
Okay.
We appreciate it very much.
We really appreciate you all taking the time to be here. And again, we're all available if you have any questions, if you want to help, if you want to volunteer, we're open.
And we will be on MCTV, which is a nice feature of this, getting the word out further.
Yeah, it's great, really
Thank you,
great.
James.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so before I close it, I guess I would like to echo everybody's comments. This has been long in the works. The college has been working diligently on this project for many years, and it's nice to see it come into fruition. And hopefully we can get the funding to kickstart it. And I certainly would like to pass on our gratitude for, again, the partnership that the college shows in these types of needs to make them come forward for our community. So thank you, everybody, for your part in that. And with that, I guess I will close the hearing and seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Oh, did I get second?
Second.
Second, moved and seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.